up something unusual along the highway north of the Crimean Isthmus. A column of military vehicles, longer than anything seen on this route in months, was rolling south under cover of darkness. This wasn't a routine resupply run. Hidden among the fuel tankers and escort trucks were the unmistakable silhouettes of S-400 launchers, Russia's most advanced long-range air defense system. If this convoy reached Crimea intact, it would rebuild one of the most important shields protecting the peninsula skies. Ukraine's military intelligence had been waiting for exactly this moment. By dawn, analysts had a clearer picture. Nearly 50 vehicles made up the convoy: launch platforms, radar trucks, command vehicles, reload carriers, and electronic warfare units riding alongside for protection. It was, in effect, an entire air defense regiment on wheels. Moving a system like the S-400 is never simple. It has to travel in pieces, escorted, refueled, and protected at every stage. That need for protection was also its greatest weakness. A convoy this size couldn't move quickly, and it couldn't hide. A long-range reconnaissance drone, callsign Orlan, had already entered the area hours earlier, climbing high enough to stay unnoticed while it mapped the column's route south. The convoy's path narrowed as it approached the isthmus, a thin stretch of land where the highway, the railway, and the water converge before the bridge into Crimea. Ukrainian planners had studied this stretch before. It was the one place the convoy could not avoid, and the one place it would be most exposed. As the bridge came into view in the drone's camera feed, and with every kilometer the gap closed, the order went out: intercept before the convoy reaches open ground on the far side. Strike teams that had been staged nearby for days began moving into position. What followed was not a single strike, but a running battle. FPV drone operators, working from concealed positions kilometers away, sent the first wave in low over the tree line, aiming for the lead launcher vehicles before the column's escorts could react. Russian electronic warfare trucks fought back immediately, flooding the area with jamming signals meant to sever the drones from their pilots. For a few critical minutes, contact was lost with several units. But Ukrainian operators had anticipated the jamming. Backup frequencies and fiber optic guided drones, immune to electronic interference, were already airborne. One by one, the convoy's most valuable vehicles began to fall. A radar truck struck broadside, a reload carrier engulfed in flame, a command vehicle abandoned at the roadside as its crew fled into the brush. Interceptor drones were scrambled by the Russian side to hunt the attackers, turning the sky above the isthmus into its own small battlefield. With half the convoy destroyed or disabled, Russian commanders faced an impossible choice: push the surviving launchers forward across the bridge, or pull back and abandon the mission entirely. They chose to push forward. A single S-400 launcher, escorted by what remained of the convoy's defenses, broke away from the wreckage behind it and made a final run for the crossing, the last chance to save any part of the air defense system that had set out hours earlier. With half the convoy destroyed or disabled, Russian commanders faced an impossible choice: push the surviving launchers forward across the bridge, or pull back and abandon the mission entirely. They chose to push forward. A single S-400 launcher, escorted by what remained of the convoy's defenses, broke away from the wreckage behind it and made a final run for the crossing, the last chance to save any part of the air defense system that had set out hours earlier. The escaping launcher made it with inside of the bridge before the last drone team intervened. A final FPV strike found its mark on the towing vehicle, leaving the launcher stranded in the open, unable to complete the journey. Had almost finished. By the time the sun was fully up, what had been one of Russia's most significant air defense reinforcement efforts in months lay scattered along several kilometers of highway, a costly reminder of how exposed even the most advanced systems become the moment they have to move. As Ukrainian drone teams pulled back to recharge and resupply, Russian recovery crews began arriving at the scene from the Crimean side, too late to save the convoy, but in time to assess what was left. Of the original 50 vehicles, fewer than 20 remained operational enough to be towed away. The rest sat where they had stopped: burned-out hulls, a handful of intact radar trucks too damaged to repair in the field, and the stranded launcher still sitting short of the bridge. Recovery under these conditions is its own kind of danger. Towing a multi-ton launcher off an open highway takes time, and time is exactly what a damaged convoy doesn't have when the side that destroyed it still has drones in the air. Ukrainian spotters kept watching, logging which vehicles were being recovered and which were simply abandoned, information that would matter for tracking where Russia's remaining S-400 inventory actually stood. To understand the weight of this single morning, you have to zoom out. Crimea's air defense network isn't one system protecting one location. It's a layered web of radar coverage, overlapping launcher ranges, and redundant command links designed so that losing one site doesn't blind the whole peninsula. But that web only works if it stays intact. Months of precision strikes against launcher sites, radar installations, and ammunition depots had already thinned that web significantly. This convoy was meant to be the patch holding one of the largest remaining gaps closed. With most of it destroyed before it ever arrived, that gap didn't just stay open, it widened. For the air and naval assets Ukraine had been trying to operate near Crimea. That gap was the difference between a contested sky and a sky Russia could no longer fully control. Every launcher lost on this highway was one less obstacle standing between Ukrainian strike planning and targets that had previously been too well defended to approach. The launcher left stranded just short of the bridge became something of a symbol over the following days, visible in satellite imagery, debated across military analysis channels, and reportedly a target Russian engineers tried twice to recover under cover of darkness. The first recovery attempt was spotted and abandoned before a tow vehicle even reached the site. The second, several nights later, succeeded in attaching a replacement tow truck, only for a Ukrainian drone, apparently still watching the location, to strike the recovery vehicle itself. The launcher remained where it had been left, now joined by the wreck of the truck sent to save it. Whether or not Russia eventually recovered the system isn't the point analysts kept coming back to. The point was that a single $50 million piece of equipment had been reduced to a stationary target for days. Immobilized in open territory, its own side controlled, a level of exposure that would have been unthinkable earlier in the war, before cheap drones changed what controlling territory actually meant for protecting expensive equipment. Within weeks, intelligence reports pointed to at least two more attempted reinforcement convoys heading toward Crimea, both smaller, both moving with far more caution than the one destroyed near Armyansk. Whether Ukraine's reconnaissance network can keep finding these convoys before they reach safety, or whether Russia's adapted tactics will let future shipments slip through, remains an open question playing out highway by highway. What single quotes as clear is that this single morning changed the math for both sides. Russia now has to weigh every reinforcement convoy against the real possibility of losing it entirely before it arrives. And Ukraine has proven, at least once, that even a target as heavily defended and as valuable as an S-400 regiment can be stopped. Not with one decisive weapon, but with patience, reconnaissance, and the willingness to fight for every kilometer of a single stretch of road. The wreckage along that highway near Armyansk is, by now, long since cleared. But the gap it left in Crimea's air defenses, and the doubt it left in every future convoy planner's mind, is still being felt months later.